This video is going to walk you through how to set up your computer for cascading style sheets. And more generally, CSS is what are called static files. Static files are files that a Django project relies on but don't really update. Examples in addition to CSS might be, for example, a JavaScript file, which of course we're not going to be doing, but an example of a static image, for example, might be the Amazon logo. That's in contrast with a dynamic image, which loads up, let's say, with a particular product and is stored in the database. So today what we're going to do is there are changes you need to make to three files in VS Code, and I'm going to walk you through how to do that so you'll know exactly what to do. If you don't do these steps, your CSS will not work. So it's important that you go through this very carefully and walk through step by step. What I'm showing you here on the screen right now is what we commonly call the traffic cop. I'm using the puppies example that we used in the last class because I figure you probably have that all up and ready to go. I've highlighted in green throughout this exercise the lines that you need to add. So this is the puppies.urls file, and you need to add these two lines because there's going to be two imports that you're going to need to use. Okay, one from Django conf and the other is the static file. So those two need to be added. At the end, these two lines need to be added as well. Now you might want to just go ahead and pause the video and take a minute to type it in. Be very, very careful. Take your time. Make sure that you type it in. Capital letters matter. Lowercase letters matter. Make sure you have it exactly right before continuing on. These are the changes that need to be made to the urls.py file. The change here allows Django to detect and process through the URL a particular CSS file. If this is not here, Django won't know what to do with it. So this is the first important step. The second changes need to be made to your settings.py file. And the settings from 120 through 132 are what you need to enter. Again, take your time. FYI, in future projects, you'll notice here I use puppies/static. That's because that's the name of the default application. That's the one that was generated when we used Django admin to create the project. In the future, of course, whatever the name is of your default app, you should change puppies to whatever it is that you're going to be using. Everything else is the same except for this one right here. The adopt is, of course, the name of the added application, and we're going to want to store our media files in the added application. FYI, this technically does not have anything to do with static files. We're going to use this to set up our project so that we can use images in a future class. And this is part of what you need to do to make sure that the images are working. Again, take your time. Once it's working, then you're just going to copy and paste this stuff from now on. You're only going to have to enter it one time, make very minor changes, update puppies and adopt. But in the future, all you'll need to do is copy and paste this into future projects. So go ahead and, if you want to pause the video, and then I'll move on to the next part. The last file is going to be base. Now normally, if you were not using template inheritance, you would have to make these changes to every single HTML template. But because every one of our HTML templates inherits the base, we only need to do it in the base file because these changes will automatically populate to the rest of the project. So the first thing you'll need to do is add this directive, this DTL load static. This directs Django to load the static files, and again, this will occur now in every single web page, so you won't need to add it again in the future. Only if you have another project, then you'll need to add it, of course, in the base for that project. This line, we've talked about link elements at the very beginning of the semester. A link element actually accesses and loads in another file. In this case, we're going to access the main.css file, which is going to be where we're going to have our CSS stored. It's a style sheet, of course, and it is a text file. This is the directive. This is what we actually set up earlier in the settings file. Here in the settings file, we said that whenever we use /static/, that's going to be the URL that we're going to use to be able to find static files. So we're just copying that over here. And now we don't need to tell Django where the file is. We just need to say it's in the static folder, and Django will automatically find it from that point on. So again, that needs to be changed. We're going to incorporate different things into this project, and one of the things we're going to do is talk about classes. Now, not the classes we've already done. CSS has its own type of class, which I know is confusing, but these two lines need to be changed. You need to add the class designation here and then you need to wrap the navigation that we did around. You need to put a div around the navigation. So please make sure you change these files, these lines right here rather, so that they're exactly like what we have here. The final step is going to be to set up your CSS file. So if you remember over here in the settings file, we told it that the CSS file was going to be in puppies/static. So that is where we want to put it. Static refers to a folder. So if I go over to my project here, here's my puppies folder. You need to set up a folder called static, and then inside that folder set up a file called main.css. The .css is very important because it communicates that it's a CSS file. If that is set up correctly, this should work. Now to test it, what I'd like you to do is go into that main.css and simply enter in this selector. The H1. H1 is of course one of the headings we've been using in all of our projects. You're going to type in the color :green. This should appear automatically. Okay, just type in the word green with a semicolon, and then set the font size to be 24px with another semicolon. Save it, and then go ahead and run your project. What should happen when you run your project is wherever you have an H1, the text should appear to be green. And if that is working, you're all set to go. You're ready for the CSS module. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Thanks.